What's up, the world? It's your boy, Tommy Malv, and I came to speak on something that has just been annoying the hell out of me over the last couple of days. I'm outside and not being able to get my fronts fixed. This situation with LeBron James and and Michael Jordan is just starting to go off the rails, right? Now, if you're a Michael Jordan fan, you're a LeBron James fan, you realize you couldn't be more different. LeBron James fans are generally people who like LeBron's style of play. And LeBron's style, people who tend to they think things should be fair. They think things should be right. Even though you're the better player, you still should make it so that everybody is involved in the offense. And you shouldn't be yelling and treating people like you're better than they are. Michael Jordan fans tend to think if you are good, then you're better than everybody else. So therefore, you get to treat everybody else like they're less than, or there are certain people who are just better than other people. That's why every time I tend to see people who like Michael Jordan, they have certain personality traits that jump out to me. They tend to be more selfish. They tend to be more people who flock to those type of players. It makes me analyze the type of person they is, because a lot of times, if you go to their circle, you talk to people who know them, they will say that they're probably selfish people, because the majority of people. Now, I'm not saying if you think Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time that you are a selfish human being. You can just like his body of work. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about people who like the asshole side of Michael Jordan and think that's what makes him the greatest. The fact that he was a killer. In other words, he was just a supreme jackass and a selfish human being. And a lot of times when I hear people say that, I always be like, dude, you gotta, seriously, if you like Michael Jordan's personality, then you have to have some type of sociopathic tendencies. Same thing with Kobe. Kobe was a monster player. But if you like the way he treated people, and you think that other people aren't the GOAT because they don't treat other people like trash, I'm sorry, there's sociopathic tendencies there that you need to go get looked at. So my point in saying what I'm saying is, just to start this argument off, the majority of people who like LeBron James are not going to like Michael Jordan because they don't like that style of play. And the majority of people who like Michael Jordan are not going to like LeBron James because they don't like that style of play. They don't like that. There are two opposing views on the game of basketball. People who like LeBron James it's like boxing, right? You have Floyd Mayweather. Your boxing purist loves Floyd Mayweather because he does everything right. He is the most technical fighter to ever fight. That's why he's undefeated, and that's why he's the greatest fighter of his era. Because he was pinpoint accurate. His technique was flawless. His defense was flawless. Floyd Mayweather is probably the most cerebral fighter to ever fight. And so if you love fighting, most fighting purists love Floyd Mayweather. Most jackasses love Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was far from technically sound. Really only backed people in. And I'm not saying Mike Tyson wasn't a great fighter. He was, but he had his talents, and his talents were not technique. He just had a wild factor to him in the way that he just pummeled people. So if you like to watch people just pummel people, then you love Mike Tyson. But if you love to watch people, you love to watch the pure form of boxing, you love Floyd Mayweather Jr. So, you know what I'm saying? I happen to be somebody who likes both. I like to watch people get knocked out, and I like to watch pure boxing. But if you had to ask me who the greatest fighter of all time, I'm going to say Floyd Mayweather Jr. I'm not Muhammad Ali, actually. But I'm talking about out of those two, I would say Floyd Mayweather Jr. Muhammad Ali was the combination of both of them. So, you know what I'm saying? So you can like both. But the problem that I have with Michael Jordan fans is they won't admit that LeBron James is a better player than Michael Jordan. I heard Chris Broussard say something this morning that literally made me make this video. He said Michael Jordan had no flaws. That had to be the dumbest comment I have ever heard. Michael Jordan had all types of flaws. He couldn't pass. He was not big enough to guard anybody that was not a two guard. Michael Jordan had a history of not even guarding threes. He could only guard ones and twos, and he generally only guarded people who were smaller than him. If you were a two and you were good, Pippen guarded you. He didn't guard you. So the whole bullshit narrative, he had no weaknesses, that's a bullshit lie. He was below average from three. He was a terrible passer. I'm like, what the hell were you watching? No, he didn't have any flaws to you, because all he did was chunk a bunch of shots up, whether they were good shots or bad shots. If you shoot more shots than everybody else, the majority of them and you're an okay player, then a lot of them are gonna go in. There's a reason why every year you have a different scoring champion, because it does not take much talent to do. You just have to shoot a lot of shots. So, and this is a narrative that anybody who's seen my videos before understands. I made a statement. When growing up, Scottie Pippen was my favorite player. He was, to me, Scottie Pippen was like everything, right? I love Scottie Pippen. I would always be like, me and my brother my brother was a huge Michael Jordan fan, like gigantic Michael Jordan fan. And he like Michael Jordan would walk on water to him. It's like, I would sit there and I'd be like, man, I hate that dude. And he'd be like, why? I'm like, because he never passes the ball. Now, I was a little kid at the time, so I didn't really understand the nuances of basketball. I just used to watch it and be like, I only see when he's in, nobody else gets to shoot, and they always start losing. I was like, if he's making a shot, yeah, they win. But if he starts missing shots, they lose. And then y'all say, oh, well, Michael Jordan don't do anything, then they lose. I'm like, yeah, because he doesn't allow anybody else to do anything. I was like, who? So, but it was kind of like a funny thing, because it's like, to my brother would always be like, oh, my kid brother, he's just a kid, he doesn't understand. But I would always get mad. And I was like, see, he like messes up the whole team. I think he comes in, he shoots 100 shots, he never passes. I used to sit there and say to myself, I said, why is it okay that everybody else has to pass it to him, but he never has to pass it to anybody else? So he never passes to anybody else. He would always be like, because he's Jordan. Jordan, the point about it is Jordan is Jordan. And I'm like, well, then, if that's the case, then why? Because I would always say Scottie Pippen, because Scottie Pippen was my favorite player. I'd be like, well, why, when that dude is in, he can still score points, but he doesn't not pass the ball? I was like, why doesn't Jordan play like him? Why doesn't Jordan pass the ball yet still shoot sometimes? I was like, when he's in, they don't play like that. I was like, they find, like, everybody gets to shoot when Scottie Pippen in. When he in, they lose because he just chunks a bunch of shots. Go watch every one of those finals where they lost. He would always be the reason they lose, because he just shoot them out of games. And just Bill Jackson would be like, hey, Scottie, go in, run point. Scottie would come in and run the point just like LeBron, because Scottie Pippen was LeBron before LeBron. Scottie Pippen would come out dribbling and playing within the team, and they would evaporate leads and send him back in. And when they would send him back in, he would feel his way in by standing on the side, because he could not be the focal point. They say that about Kobe and Michael Jordan, and I say that's a lie. Kobe was deadly from the three. Kobe was an okay passer. You can run. Kobe did not need a Scottie Pippen, because Kobe could switch into Scottie Pippen. Kobe was like LeBron, but the difference is Kobe just had a Jordan's mentality. But Kobe could still pass. Kobe didn't need someone else to come in and run the point. Kobe could, Kobe ran the triangle offense the way it was meant to run, the way Jordan ran before he got Pippen. That means it forces the most dominant player, the most ball-centric player, to pass the ball, and that's what the triangle does. And they always give credit to Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson did not create, nor was he the person who taught Jordan the triangle offense. It was I can't remember what his name was, but it was another guy, and so they always giving Phil Jackson credit for that. But Phil Jackson did not come up with the triangle offense, and he wasn't even the one who taught the triangle offense to the Bulls. They literally, he was just like a motivational speaker for the Chicago Bulls. But regardless, So that infuriates me too when they compare Kobe to Jordan, because I think Kobe was more of a well-rounded player than Jordan was. And to get up there and say some blasphemous, stupid-ass comment about Jordan game had no weakness, stop it. Jordan's weaknesses were never exposed because he had so much talent around him. Jordan was not a good three-point shooter. That is a weakness that if he played in this time would have hurt him. Because you can't just go to when you are allowed to play zone, you can't just rush to the cup. You can't do that anymore. That's why it's getting harder and harder for Russell Westbrook, and he had to develop a shot. It's not the olden days. You can't just play with that same mentality as you played before. And that's what kills me, man. When I watch these games, it's like, come on, seriously? We're gonna try to act like we don't realize that Michael Jordan had huge flaws in his game. Oh yeah, Michael Jordan had no weaknesses. LeBron has weaknesses. Are you out of your freaking mind? LeBron game is way more well-rounded than Jordan game ever was. So to sit up there and say LeBron James has weaknesses because he couldn't shoot free throws, well, Jordan couldn't shoot threes. That's why half of the game they ended up losing when he couldn't get to the cup. That's why they couldn't beat the bad boy Pistons, because he had no outside shot. So his body wouldn't have took the beating he did, and he wouldn't have lost to the Pistons if he developed the outside shot, which he couldn't. He didn't have an outside shot. So that's why he had to keep going into the paint and getting. You know why the Pistons couldn't beat the Celtics or the Magic, the Lakers? Because they had outside shooting. Bird could beat you inside or outside. Jordan couldn't. Jordan could only beat you one way, and that's getting to the cup and getting fouled. When they started to just rough him up because they realized he had no shot, the reason why Isaiah Thomas them could win is because Isaiah Thomas could beat you outside and inside. He didn't only have to go to the cup. Michael Jordan had no three-point shot. He couldn't. Everybody loved to talk that one game where he made the 6 threes, right? And he did the shrug. But the truth of the matter is that was rare. It was a rare. Jordan rarely ever shot well from 3. He was not. LeBron is a way better three-point shooter than he was. So it trips me out when you sit up there and they'll tout, oh, well, Jordan just, he had no flaws. Bullshit. Jordan didn't have no flaws. He was a mid-range shooter and a driver. Yes, he developed the mid-range fadeaway because he couldn't shoot the 3. Hey, don't give me that bullshit. Jordan had no flaws. He couldn't pass. He was a horrible passer, and the reason why they would lose is because he was just like Kawhi Leonard. Watching Kawhi Leonard is like you would have been seeing Michael Jordan at this time. Now, obviously, Kawhi Leonard is nowhere near the athlete that Michael Jordan was. We all know that. Jordan was way faster, quicker, stronger. Jordan was a freak, right? Nobody's trying to say Kawhi and Jordan was the same thing. But towards the end of his career, around the time of Utah Jazz, Kawhi and Jordan game were close to identical. It was almost the same. They both rely heavily on the mid-range. The only difference is Kawhi Leonard is a way better three-point shooter than Michael Jordan ever was. And Michael Jordan is way more athletic than Kawhi Leonard ever was. So, the point I'm trying to make is this whole narrative that Jordan had no flaws and no weaknesses. Are you out of your freaking... Jordan had plenty of flaws. He had plenty of weaknesses. Okay? He had plenty of problems. You just didn't see them. Because at the end of the day, LeBron has his way of playing the game. Michael Jordan has his way of playing. I would never love the way Michael Jordan played the game. I don't care how old I... Yes, when I was young, there was no nuances. There was a lot of ignorance there. But now that I'm older, my opinion about his stuff, now my reasoning, my understanding for why he shot so much is a little more, there's more nuance to it, and I understand a little better because that's the way the game works. You have to shoot a lot. It takes pressure off of your players. I understand that. I wish LeBron would do it sometimes because to quiet as it kept, I be looking at the game sometimes, you know what I'm saying, as much of a LeBron lover people think that I am. The truth of the matter is LeBron drives me crazy. When I watch games and I'm like, LeBron is making it hard on his teammates because he is so a pass-first player that at times it's like, dude, you're making them become, you're trying to turn them into something they're not. They're not all-stars. You can't be firing the ball to them 100 times a game expecting them to make 9 of them. That's not how the game works. You got to learn to, at times when an all-star has to play, a superstar has to step up. You cannot keep relying on all-stars, role players to put on, because as the moment gets heightened, they become less potent. They become less valuable. They can't do the things that they did. So it blows me away when I don't see that. I'm like, man, LeBron, you're relying on a guy who's the ninth guy off the bench to hit a wide open three with the game on the line. Like, no, I'm sorry. Yes, he might make it sometimes, but at times you are putting that guy in a can't win situation. He's not prepared for that. That's not his personality. That's not what he's been prepared to do. That's not what his mentality is. His mentality is that of a role player. It's not that of a superstar. So I think sometimes LeBron can put his players in bad positions by trying to force them to be these pass first players. I cannot stand that about LeBron. It's like they're like, oh, they're going cold. It's like, well, they're not superstars. Danny Green is not going to hit 9 threes. It's like, my God, yes, they're leaving him open for a reason, LeBron. You have got to take it on yourself. The more you do, it makes it easier for them. You take pressure off of them, and it allows them to do more. Then they feel more comfortable because the spotlight is not on them. But if you keep shooting them the ball and they keep missing, guess what's going to happen? Their confidence is going to get lower and lower and lower because they're going to get criticized. They know after this game that they're going to get destroyed. And unlike you, who've been dealing with this since you were in the 9th grade, they haven't. They're not used to that. So I'm not trying to say like Jordan's game has its advantages to it when you're a role player, because you really ain't required to do much. You know what I'm saying? But by the same token, you can also get really, really cold. Like your shot can be cold. And that's all I'm trying to say. Don't say Jordan didn't have any flaws, because he had plenty of them. And don't say Jordan was this and Jordan was that, because like I said, it's like as time goes by, Jordan's legacy just becomes myth. And it's perpetuated by a bunch of people who want Jordan to be considered the greatest of all time and can't stand the fact that they're losing that war. They're losing that war. They tried to put out that crap fest, Last Dance, thinking it was going to change something. Didn't change anything. No, people still calling LeBron the GOAT. And LeBron is still doing crazy shit in year 17 that Jordan wasn't sniffing at. So, you can say what you want to say. The guy's been to the finals 10 times. 10 freaking times. I'm sorry. And half of the times he was there, he was the underdog, meaning his team was not supposed to be there. So you can say whatever you want to say about LeBron James, but the truth of the matter is LeBron James is the greatest of all time. I don't care how anybody looks at it or what anybody says. LeBron James is the greatest basketball player, in my opinion, to ever play the game. Period. End of story. So they can take it how they want and they can feel how they want. It is what it is. And Jordan fans gonna have to eat it, because as y'all get older, y'all age out, the younger people coming in and they just gonna go back and analyze it. They're not gonna be analyzing it from some superstition / I'm a little kid in the 4th grade loving Michael Jordan, wearing his jersey, cutting my hair bald. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to go back and actually look at who Michael Jordan was, how he played the game, and they're going to be like, he doesn't really look like he's that much better. I've seen athleticism. I've seen people can score. I don't think he's all that good. So I don't think he's untouchable is the better question. Not all that good. I don't think he's untouchable. I think you can compare people to him, and I'm comparing people to him and comparing their games. I like LeBron James' game better than his. But regardless, I just want to say that, y'all. Please, let me know what you think about this discussion. Let's have a discussion in the comment section of what you think about this whole bullcrap narrative that Jordan had no weakness. All right, y'all. Peace.